Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm back and I'm cooled off, but boy, was I right. It is prohibitively hot and humid outside. Prohibitively. People staggering around in a daze. So I did all the stuff I had to do. I came right back here, and I'm cooling off this room with a little burst of air conditioning so that my little dog will not be sitting there going. But I came back to another little stack of mail packages broiling in the sun. When I brought them in, they were hot to the touch. So they're hot off the presses. I thought we'd see what they are. Starting with this enormous cardboard thing. Oh, okay, great. This is due, I think this is due in September. I've already actually... No, this is due at the very end of August. This is Sword and Scimitar by Raymond Ibrahim, the history of great battles between the forces of Islam and the forces of Christianity. I've already read this, thought it was very spiritedly done, and I've already reviewed it, so I have the finished copy now for my shelf. That's great. Let me do this next one here. This is okay. This is the people from Tachyon Press. It's a small science fiction publisher that has started sending me some of their books, and they really put out a pretty product. At least the advanced copies. I'll see what the finished copies are like, but the advanced copies are lovely. And they've got some fairly major names in their roster, which is great. Although I win either way when it comes to smaller, non-Tor science fiction publishers, because if they don't have big names in their lineup, then they have a roster of names that I want to know. Newcomers, names that are new to me. This name is known to me. This name is not new to me. This comes out in November. This is How to Fracture a Fairy Tale by Jane Yolen. And it is, I think, a modern retelling. It's an inspired collection of wholly transformed fairy tales, legends, and myths. The fairy tale pastiche fiction is never really my cup of tea. I tend not to like it, just because I don't get the appeal of fairy tales. That I know they're the big thing, the cat's meow on BookTube, but I just don't get it myself. But I get the appeal of Jane Yolen, so I don't need to. And then this one is Peter Beagle, The Last Unicorn, The Last Journey, The Lost Journey. So is this some sort of extra thing of the Peter Beagle is a fantasy author. Those of you who haven't made his acquaintance, especially with A Fine and Private Place or The Last Unicorn, should definitely find those books and read them. And this book celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Last Unicorn. Wow. Okay, so what is this? This is now the Last Unicorn's first beginnings are captured in this beautifully illustrated commemorative hardcover edition, which includes Beagle's revised wry musings on his early writing career and tributes from Patrick Rothfuss and Carrie Vaughan. So what is it then? Is it an early draft of The Last Unicorn? Yeah, it's the Last Unicorn, The Lost Journey, and then Appreciations with original artwork. So it's a celebration of The Last Unicorn in honor of its 50th anniversary edition. And I'm wondering if that means that Tachyon will be doing an edition of The Last Unicorn, or maybe they have already and I've just missed it. Okay, great. So this is going to take a little research, and it comes out in November, so I have time. Wow. Okay, 2 science fiction works to go along with Sword and Scimitar. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. What else have we got here? Finished copy. Oh, okay, great. Okay, fantastic. This is finished. We've seen this before. This is the new Walter Mosley, John Woman, which is a first time in a long time novel for him. This author requires no introduction. His award-winning, critically adored body of work has sold millions of copies worldwide. Though he is perhaps best known for his mysteries featuring the character Easy Rawlins, over the course of his long and prolific career, he has also written a handful of penetrating literary novels that wrestle with questions of political and philosophical interest. His latest book is such a novel, the result of nearly 20 years of incubation. It is a dazzling and convention-defying novel about the sexual and intellectual coming of age of an unusual man who goes by the name of Woman. Okay. I've got a little book of information here about this thing. Do we have any more about the book? That would be nice. At 12 years old, Cornelius, the son of an Italian-American woman and an older black man from Mississippi named Herman, secretly takes over his father's job at the Silent Film Theater in New York's East Village. 5 years later, as Herman lives out his last days, he shares his wisdom with his son, explaining that the person who controls the narrative of history controls their own fate. After his father dies and his mother disappears, Cornelius sets about reinventing himself as Professor John Woman, a man who will spread Herman's teachings into the classroom of his unorthodox Southwestern University and beyond. But there are other individuals who are attempting to influence the narrative of John Woman and who might know something about the facts of his hidden past. Okay, so standalone, I hate the phrase, but a standalone literary novel from Walter Mosley. Great. And this comes out soon, I think, yes? Yes, okay. I've had the advanced copy of this for a while. This comes out in early September. And I'm forcing myself not to make a September shelf yet. I just barely made an August shelf. I should be thinking only about August. So I'm gonna put that aside for now, and we'll just forge on here. These things are still warm to the touch from being out there because it's so hot. And the weather forecasts are all over the map. I don't typically pay much attention to the actual forecasters. Instead, I have apps and the National Weather Forecast Service, and I look at the information that the forecasters for the news are looking at and try and make my own calls. And I hate to say it because it tends to seem like it's besmirching an entire profession, but I'm right as often as they are, and I have no degrees, and I don't stand in front of a camera and say, "That's right, Jim, it's going to be horrible tomorrow." One way or another. In this particular case, the systems are so volatile that I really can't tell. It looks to me like we're going to have unsettled weather like we had all last week, where at any minute the sky could darken and it could pour, and pop-up thunderstorms are possible, or as in the case of western Massachusetts, a pop-up tornado. And that eventually that perturbation is going to break this heat, so that by the weekend it's back to much lower temperatures and much lower humidity. We shall see. Tomorrow's looking iffy. Tomorrow's looking stormy and mighty hot, and that combination is bad. That combination is going to make Steve want to stay at home. But let's see. What? Okay. Oh, fantastic. All right. Okay, this comes out in late August. I think we saw this in advanced copy and then finished copy. This is Stephen Mitchell's translation of Beowulf. From Yale University Press in the trade paperback that's coming out at the end of the month. Yeah, okay. And this is bilingual, facing page, Old English and Modern English, with a nice, generous introduction, plenty of notes and supporting material. So now I complained about 250 videos ago that I don't currently have a copy of Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf. One of the great translations of anything to anything that exists, and I don't have a copy. I must have given all my copies away. And I remember at the time thinking, well, does that mean you don't have any translations of Beowulf? Are you actually right now in a book collection that has no Beowulf? Of course, that's not true. That's not true at all. I have many, many translations of Beowulf, not just in a big collection of Old English poetry, but also in several Penguin Classics by several different translators. And now I have another one. Now I have I have no idea what happened to the original of this thing, but now I have the paperback. That's always tempting to reread, but I think I'll hold off. I have a huge amount to read in August. Books in August that I haven't got to yet. Burying. And then what is this last one here? Oh my! Oh, okay. Did not know this was coming. This is going to be August, I'm sure. No, even worse. This is late July. Okay. This is E.E. Cummings. This is just a very pretty miscellany of E. E. Cummings' writings. Originally published as a limited edition printing of less than 1,000 copies in 1958. This miscellany, revised in 1966 with a new introduction from Cummings scholar George Firmarge, has been out of print for over 50 years. A self-described cluster of epigrams, these essays, poems, translations, and previously unpublished line drawings showcase Cummings' cunning wordplay and wry imagination. Witty, biting, and offbeat, he remains, in all mediums, a keen critic of the modern. This is, needless to say, I'm sure that none of you find this surprising. E. E. Cummings' poetry does absolutely nothing for me at all. But this is a miscellany of his non-poetry. In his cheeky foreword to the first edition, Cummings notes of the featured essays dating from 1915 to 1957 and all published in Vanity Fair, that taken ensemble, the 49 astonish and cheer and enlighten our progenitor. He's astonished that, as nearly as anyone can make out, I wrote them. He's cheered because, while rereading them, I've encountered a great deal of liveliness and nothing dead. I'll be the judge of that, Seymour. Okay? So this has a whole bunch of stuff on the circus, on Picasso, on burlesque shows, on America itself. Wow, okay. Well, it came out in late July, but I never got it, and I'm interested in it. So that's, I guess I don't really care about the date. In fact, I will use the date as a flimsy excuse to read this tonight, because I don't think I've ever seen this. If it got reprinted or whatever, I don't think I've ever seen it. So, all right, wow. So a very pretty, very bright miscellany of E. Cummings. Then paperback of Stephen Mitchell's translation of Beowulf, John Woman by Walter Mosley. Sounds like an ambitious literary novel from a man who's best known for his murder mysteries. That can go one way or another. To put it mildly, that can go one way or another. I will report back. Then 2 books from Tachyon Press. A commemorative edition of the 50th anniversary of The Last Unicorn, which you all should read, and a new Jane Yolen. And then the finished copy of Sword and Scimitar, about key battles between Christians and Muslims over the last 14 centuries, that I've already reviewed, so I won't reread that for a while. I'll just wait and see if maybe I show up on the paperback. One way or another. There's a charbroiled mail haul for you. I don't know, probably more videos to come. We're comfortable now that we're out of the heat, so I always have more to talk about. The only stress here is that Frida is not a basset hound. She has a ton of energy and no sense of perspective about when to turn it off. So I'm the one who has to be the bad guy. I'm the one who has to say, look, I know you're bouncing and up and down as we go outside, but we can't stay outside for very long at all because you'll overheat. It's way too hot. It's 100 degrees. So, and she doesn't like that, and she's bouncing off the walls in here. There's nothing I can do about it. She overheats. I've seen it. So we will take it easy. We will do lots of little trips. And after the sun sets, we'll go on a slightly longer walk. That'll hope burn off some energy. But in the meantime, we have plenty of other things to talk about. So you'll probably see this face again. But in the meantime, thank you, BookTube. I'll see you soon.